Good afternoon. Welcome to the Utah Works Initiative RFP information session for Talent Ready Utah. My name is Benjamin. I'll be talking to you today about the application process. I'd love to introduce you with Talent Ready Utah itself, get into the plans that you need to put together in order to apply, the timeline that you should be working with, some resources, and then close with questions. So with that, I will get started. So, a little bit about Talent Ready Utah. We were created in 2015 within the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Um, we were moved over in 2022 to Talent Ready Utah into the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education. That's where we reside today. It's also known as USHE. Our vision statement is to be a state where every learner is workforce ready and every employer has access to skilled talent. And our mission really focuses on what you see right there is to convene education, industry, and government leaders to identify workforce gaps and align initiatives with industry through the design of targeted education to career initiatives. We hope to bring these two together by coordinating cross-sector partnerships, leveraging data, and identify state priorities and investing in high talent workforce initiatives that respond to Utah's evolving economic and workforce needs. So, as far as Utah works, we have three key grant objectives, and you will find these in the RFP. Number one is to develop short-term pre-employment or short-term early employment training programs to fill targeted high-demand positions in Utah. We hope to provide required skills training to ensure individuals meet the required levels of skills for targeted employment. And we want to expedite skills training to prepare a large number of individuals in a short period to fill targeted labor positions. Getting into that a little bit further, this is helpful. As far as the eligibility, a company and a post-secondary institution, also known as a USHE institution, must jointly develop a proposal. The application must be the degree granting institution or technical college within that system. The company's role is several-fold. They must certify the need. They must have a substantial presence in Utah. So we're really hitting on that need for a labor gap here in the state. And they must be a for-profit business willing to perform cost sharing requirements. And that can take many forms. The expectation for those who are awarded in this process is that the employer is engaged throughout the entire process, both in the curriculum development all the way to closeout. Um, this is intended to provide short-term training to meet the employer's specific skilled labor needs. So that's the real key there. That's the intent of the program. We want these to be tailored or components to meet the employer's unique needs, create opportunities for participants to enter in-demand occupations. Of course, we would like to see that each of them are 3 stars or higher in the DWS form, and I'll send that out to you so that you have a resource following the end of this meeting. And 3 stars means average wage, above average employment opportunities, and higher vacancies from growth than replacement. We require that they result in some form of credential, and you can elaborate within your proposal about what that will be. But being that it's within a USHE institution, this should be a formalized process. We will require tracking, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And we would expect that placement is tracked and close to 100% due to the verification by the employer of the workforce labor gap. So we are transitioning into the Salesforce grant management system. So some of you may have already applied for other initiatives in the past, but you will be required to submit a packet via Salesforce. And I'll show you a little bit about what that means for budget. However, there are some documents that you'll want to submit as well. The first is the proposal narrative. I'll talk about that in a moment. The budget narrative, which helps to highlight in greater detail the budget that you've proposed. The executed collaboration agreement, and lastly, for the institutions themselves, departmental budgets, if the state is financing um, any part of the program beyond the funding that TRU is supporting. So each proposal will be evaluated on five criteria that you see here. The introduction, needs assessment, program management, implementation, performance and outcomes, and budget. Um, so we will assign a review committee member, at least one per section to review that specific section. You'll note in the RFP that there are specific things that we would like you to address by section. And those individual points will correspond with the questions and rubric that we will set up for the review committee members. So a real intent is to make sure that you're well prepared to submit a quality proposal. And I'll also mention that we are willing to meet and review proposals if they are submitted 7 or more days in advance of the deadline. So consider that as well. So formatting for the proposal narrative, we have a 6-page limit for this specific initiative. We have standard margins, 8.5 by 11. Page numbers we would like to be on the specific proposals and maybe within the 1 inch margin. We have specific fonts that you'll see in the fourth bullet right there. We will not accept any other fonts, and we will not accept proposals that submit with 12 points um, or larger, or excuse me, or smaller. So we want to create a consistent view for our reviewers and allow for specific margins for information to present to us. We will expect these to be submitted via PDF, and we would ask that no embedded links are used. The collaboration agreement, again, between the USHE institution and a for-profit company, will outline the specifics of the partnership between the two. It'll detail who does what of the roles and contributions of each party. It'll certify the skills labor need and the hiring needs and how this program specifically will create a pipeline and address these needs on a short-term basis, given the short-term nature of the grant. You're also encouraged to submit letters to reflect the unique aspects of the collaboration. That might be why the institution is uniquely qualified to provide that training program for the company. Letters of collaboration may be signed, must be signed by an authorized signer at the institution and by the employer. So by submitting, we would expect that to be the case. There is also an example within the RFP that you'll find at the end. So if you would like an example of what a quality collaboration agreement looks like, please use that as a reference. As I mentioned before, we'll be using Salesforce moving forward as our grant management system. You'll see right here that there are two different fields, screen grabs of the Salesforce grant management system. And on the right-hand side, these would be where you look at the specific budget categories that are within the Utah Works program. You'll enter the value of money that you're applying for within that specific budget category. The reason column can generally be disregarded because you're submitting a budget narrative. We would expect the detail in that section. On the left-hand side, because this is a reimbursable grant, you will submit details as far as how many students you expect to enroll, complete, and be placed in the program. And based on that number, we will do the reimbursement. So this would be the main criteria that we'll evaluate, both on progress for those who have been awarded, as well as the scope of impact that will be for those who apply for the grant. So it's really important to understand that funding must be used solely for the direct costs associated with the program. So keep that in mind. You'll find them in the RFP with a bit more detail than this, but here are the allowable budget lines. Salary and benefits, we have equipment, both capital and non-capital, office and project supplies. We do allow for staff and travel for staff and students. Make sure to include rationale for that as well. Subcontracts will need Talent Ready Utah approval, as well as any contracted professional services. And then lastly, other direct costs, including communication, marketing, the curriculum development associated with creating the program, and pre-employment expenses. As I mentioned, you'll be submitting a budget narrative separately from the proposal narrative and the budget kind of form that I just showed you. This is a chance for you to do the expanding upon what the individual expenses are within a budget category. So in the case of tuition and participation for a student, like you can see exactly through year one what that's broken out into. So give as much detail as you can there. This would not be counted towards your page limit on your proposal narrative. So we would like explicitly detail on that section. Again, the funding will need to be used solely for the direct costs associated with the program. Indirect costs or general administration are not allowed. Reimbursement requests for indirect costs would also not be permitted and not accepted. Grant funds for this award will be dispersed on a reimbursement basis, and that will be quarterly. The reporting deadlines correspond with the payments or requests for payments, and those would be in January, April, July, and October, and the 10th of each of those months. The evaluation process involves us convening industry specialists relating to the proposals that come in. So we heavily engage industry on our end, both in our board as well as our review committee meetings. So as I mentioned, the five different criteria or categories that are expected to be provided. Each one has a specific point value and weight corresponding with that section. We will ask a review committee member again to review that section. However, they often end up reading the entire proposal. The most crucial thing to remember is that those questions in the RFP correspond with many of the points that will be discussed and evaluated within the rubric and in our review committee. So it's an opportunity to hit on those if it's in the case that there are many applications. It'll ensure that information is shared adequately and the review is clear. So again, payment being reimbursed, you'll be submitted to the Talent Ready Utah via email. They get sent to Talent Ready True Grants at uc.edu. They're accompanied by an invoice, supporting documents such as the receipts, registration records, and payroll documentation. So salary and benefits, for instance, would include pay periods. Enrollment would include the specific semester and detail via a student roster, things like that. Payment requests are due again on the same dates as the quarterly reports. We expect those to be submitted in the same timeline, and they can be submitted to True Grants. At a minimum, these quarterly reports are fairly simple. They just ask for, based on the index of how many students that you expected to participate in the program, how many students in that given quarter enrolled, completed, or were placed into relevant employment. So that's the key when awards are disseminated, just to focus on that individual quarter for enrollments and the subsequent steps. So this grant will have proposals due on August 28th. We will then convene the review committee who will evaluate the proposals, score them, meet, and then present their recommendations to the Talent Ready Utah board. I will note that those who apply should just be prepared to answer any supplemental questions that may come in after the review committee convenes, which does happen if there are any clarifications that are necessary for them to make a formal decision. And then you could expect roughly to hear an award notification in October. However, we do expect to keep people informed throughout the process. So we will welcome any questions that you might have. Anyone who signed up for the review committee, information session today, will get added automatically into Salesforce if you haven't already been added. However, you're welcome to reach out to us at truegrants@uc.edu, by which we could add you to the platform. And everyone who signed up as well will receive a copy of the RFP and some other resources. So if there are no other questions, I appreciate each of you being able to attend today, and I hope that you have a good day.